On the driver's side of the engine, I would do another brief overview looking for any missing or damaged parts or any hoses that might be leaking. I'm going to start on the top with my clutch fluid reservoir, making sure it's secure, it's not cracked or damaged, it's not leaking, and I can see that the cap is on tight. Checking my air filter housing, making sure that it's securely mounted, it's not cracked or damaged, and I would check the air indicator, making sure that it's secure and making sure that it's still in the green. If it reaches the red, I may have to have this serviced. Checking my oil field neck, making sure that it's securely mounted, it's not cracked or damaged, it's not leaking, making sure that my cap is on tight. I would check the oil by pulling the dipstick, wiping it clean, reinserting it, pulling it out, checking for an adequate level, looking for any discoloration or contamination. Down at the base of my oil field neck, next to it I can see my alternator. The alternator is securely mounted, it's not cracked or damaged. It is also belt driven. I would check all the electrical connectors on the beard to make sure I have no exposed wires and that they are on tight. Moving to my power steering reservoir, making sure that it's securely mounted, it's not cracked or damaged, it's not leaking. The cap is tight, I've got an adequate level of fluid, and my two hoses on the bottom are secure and they're not leaking. I would follow the hoses all the way down to the power steering pump. I cannot see the pump, but I would check it to make sure that it's securely mounted, it's not cracked or damaged, it's not leaking, and this power steering pump is gear driven. Following to the rear, I would have to check my air compressor, making sure that it's securely mounted to the bell housing, it's not cracked or damaged, and I hear no audible leaks from it. It is also gear driven. Moving back out, I have the fuel water separator. It's securely mounted and it's not cracked or damaged and it's not leaking. It's secured to the frame. The frame I would check for any cracks or any illegal welds. Come up here to the to the steering shaft, making sure that it's not bent or broken, and I would look for no more than 10 degrees of play. Checking my U-joints, making sure that they're securely mounted, they're not cracked or damaged, they're properly lubricated, and I would look for shiny spots which would indicate excessive wear. I've got my steering gearbox, which is secure, it's not cracked or damaged, it's not leaking. All the lines are secure and tight with no leaks. On my steering linkage, I would check my pitman arm, the drag link, the spindle, the steering knuckle, the steering arm, and the bar here, which is the tie rod, making sure that they're all securely mounted, not cracked or damaged, and they're all secure with castle nuts and cotter pins in place. Moving to my spring mount, my springs, my U-bolts and bolts, and my shackle, making sure that they're all securely mounted, they're not cracked or damaged. My springs are not shifted. The U-bolts are secured to the I-beam axle with spacers, and they're not sheared off on the bottom. I'll check my shock, make sure that it's securely mounted at both ends, it's not bent, damaged, or broken, and it's not leaking. Moving to my airline and my ABS line, making sure my airline is secure at both ends, no cuts, bulges, or abrasions, and no audible leaks. My ABS connection is secure with no exposed wires. Moving to my brake chamber. My brake chamber is securely mounted, it's not cracked or damaged, and I have no audible leaks. I'll check my rod, the clevis, the pins, and the keepers, making sure they're securely attached to the slack adjuster, and I would check the play. They're not bent, damaged, or broken. I would check the play by chalking the wheel, releasing the brake, pulling on the rod, making sure I've got no more than 1 inch of play. Moving to the inside of my wheel, I would check the inner wheel seal, making sure that it's secure and not leaking. I would move to my brake shoes, making sure that I've got a minimum of 1/4 of an inch of brake lining left, making sure they're not worn dangerously thin and they're free of contamination. I would check the drum for any cracks or illegal welds, also free of any grease, oil, or contamination. I would check the rim, both inside and outside, making sure it's not damaged, there's no cracks or any illegal welds. I'll check the bead of the tire, both inside and outside, making sure that my tire is properly beaded to the rim. I would check the sidewalls for any bulges, bumps, or abrasions on both sides, in and out. And I would check the top of my steering tire for a minimum of 4/32 tread depth or better, and an even wear pattern. Checking all my lug nuts, making sure that they're all tight. Looking for any signs of rust, of running rust, which would indicate a loose lug nut. If it were loose, I would use a lug wrench or torque wrench to make sure that it's tight. Checking my hub oil cap, make sure that it's secure with all bolts in place, it's not cracked or damaged, it's not leaking, and I would check for an adequate amount of hub oil. I would check for a metal valve stem and a metal cap, and I would use a tire gauge to check for proper inflation to the manufacturer's specification.